So, I'm finally checking out Our Life by GB Patch. This game, I've heard nothing but good things about it. I've been looking forward to it since it was announced, but I'm also like a depressed piece of shit who doesn't actually play games except Overwatch. So, finally getting around to checking it out, and I thought I would record and share my experience. This game is free to play. I believe there are more coming out in the future, but I did buy the Step 1, 2, and 3 expansions. I don't know exactly what they entail, but I love GB Patch. Their games are always extremely high quality, especially for the price points that they put them at. The majority of them are free to play, with sometimes having extra DLC that you can buy, but like they are still entirely solid games, even in their free version. So I think that they are a really great company. Gonna load up a new file. I've loaded this up once before because I was gonna play it, and then I closed it without actually playing it. So, here we go. Welcome to Our Life Beginning and Always. There are various ways you can customize and interact with the game. This tutorial is an overview of how certain features work. You can read the full tutorial from the main menu to learn everything in detail. To start off, the game is divided into 3 time periods called steps. Step 1, childhood, Step 2, adolescent, and Step 3, teenage. Only the default name Jamie is included in the base game. Hundreds more can be added by getting a free voice name expansion DLC. I have that. We'll look through the names and see if there's one we want to pick. If they have my name, I'll probably go with a voice name. If not, I will just name the character, well, I don't know. Sleuth Thought seems a little rude to name this character, because I think like the majority of this game takes place when they're kids. I don't know if we need a child Sleuth Thought running around, you know? So maybe we won't name our character Sleuth Thought this time. I have never seen a tutorial this in-depth for a visual novel in my life. Usually they're just like, click. Options change things, but I don't mind this. Like, I'm not saying this is a negative. I'm just like, damn, there's a lot here. I probably will cut out a lot of this in editing. We hope you'll have a nice time with Our Life. Thank you for playing. I like that there's no bad endings. I like visual novels with bad endings, but like it's kind of nice, like ones that are just like, hey, it doesn't matter, you know. Let's try the voice to name option. Do they have my name? If not, we'll just pick something cute.
Devin.
It's not spelled like my name, but it does sound like it. I never name my Otome protagonists after myself, so this is a little odd. So the character creator is really neat. There's lots of different options here. It's pretty neat. I've never seen an Otome do it like this either. Summer in Sunset Bird was a special time of year. Your usually sleepy town began to bustle. It was a popular tourist destination, with people coming from all over to enjoy the beach, the weather, and the relaxation that came with both. The smell of the ocean, crisp and salty, hung in the air, bringing 3 whole months of schoolless vacation with it. During the summer, your moms didn't like you to wander too far outside of your neighborhood, so you knew the area pretty well. That included the people. Families came and went from Sunset Bird, but they mostly stayed and did what your mom called putting down roots. They built businesses, they got to know each other, and they definitely said hello to the nice young kids who waved when passing their stores. Going for a walk around town mostly meant that the familiar, friendly residents waved or asked how your family was, or most often just said hello. You didn't really get why they always had to say hi. They saw you every day, but you nodded back at them anyway. You ended up saying hi to a lot of different people, since most of the tourists that came and went every summer were the same ones. You're too anxious to say hi back most of the time to the other residents that greeted you, but they all knew you well enough to expect that. Ended up saying hi. You enjoyed learning all about where they were visiting from and hoped to visit those places one day too. But today, there was a man sitting on the curb outside your house. He was sitting with his head in his hands, his whole body slumped over, and you wondered if he was even a real person or a statue that had magically sprung up from the ground overnight. Whoever or whatever he was, you had never seen him before. One thing knowing everyone in Sunset Bird was the people who you didn't recognize really stood out. It was rare for tourists to venture into the residential district, as your moms called it. So for you, not knowing who a total stranger was set off a lot of red flags. Your moms had a talk with you and your big sister Lizzie about this kind of situation before. You hadn't exactly been listening at the time. You think it could be okay to talk to new people. They mentioned that some people aren't good to talk to, but other types of people can help you even if you don't know them. You remember that it's okay to run away if you feel uncomfortable. You don't have to worry about being polite then. You weren't sure about this man yet. Still, you felt a bit scared knowing that he was blocking the way to your front door, but you were pretty interested. You wanted to know more about what was going on. Whether he was nice or not, you didn't want to be bothered. You felt a bit scared knowing that he was blocking the way to your front door. You slowed down, your mind racing for ideas on how to get past him unseen, but it was too late to escape. There was a split second where your eyes met, and you took in a shaky breath, your eyes darting toward the sky, pretending to stare at a bird who was hovering nearby. Hey! His voice startled you and made you jump, but you still didn't look at him. The bird landed on top of a nearby gatepost, and its black feathers ruffled against the gentle breeze. Trying to keep your eyes on it was tough, especially when the man stood up and started to make his way toward you. Not wanting to seem approachable, you folded your arms and stared. Still unsure about him, but willing to be friendly, you offered the stranger a smile. Man gives a grin of his own back. Do you live around here? What's your name? You looked the man up and down, taking in his tan skin and relaxed appearance. At least his clothes were relaxed the way he was acting, wasn't. He had sharks on his shorts and a stingray tattoo, and you wondered if he was obsessed with the ocean or something. While you made your assessment, he looked at you expectantly, waiting for an answer to his question. Yeah, I live here. That's great. He looked happy to hear it, giving you a broad smile. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a clean $20 bill. It crinkled in his hand as he held it up to you. Even more confused than before, you looked back at him. Could you do me a favor? Nothing bad. Sorry, let me start over. He cleared his throat and stood up straighter. This is stranger danger, peak stranger danger. From where you were standing, it just made him look creepier. I have a son. His name is Cove, who's about your age. Cove. That seemed like a strange name for an actual living person to you. You chewed on the inside of your cheek. This guy was definitely obsessed with water. You thought that was pretty cool. He wasn't the only person like that in Sunset Bird. We moved in across the street. See? He gestured toward the house that had been empty for a year, his watch catching the late afternoon sunlight and reflecting off the walls. The gigantic for sale sign was finally gone. You must be Devin Works, right? I met your mom earlier, and they told me you were 8 just like him. So, he shook the $20 bill to bring it back to your attention, a hopeful smile tilting his lips at the corners. Can you try to be friends with my boy? Can you try to be friends with the boy? Why are you paying me to try to befriend a child? Just give it a chance, and you can keep this. He's a good kid. You'll like him. But you've got to keep it a secret too, okay? It wouldn't be friendly to say his dad sent you. You eyed the man. You kind of felt sorry for Cove. Do the kids really get their parents to pay for friendships? Had your moms done that for you and Lizzie, the thought made you frown. What do you say? Want to make a deal? I'll take the money. Carefully plucked the bill from his outstretched hand, grinning at the thoughts of what you could do with that much cash. All the sweets you could ever want. You could buy a ticket to the newest movie at the cinema. There's a cute stuffed animal you'd seen in the store in town. It cost a few dollars to have a library card. With this, you could pay for yourself instead of having your moms do it. You weren't even sure yet. There was a cute stuffed animal I'd seen in town. It was going to be able to go home with you, and that was just a start. You thought the sky was the limit with that kind of amount. The man smiled at you, his eyes crinkled to the sides as he did. Great, that's great. I'll bring him by tomorrow. I wanted him to meet and greet with the neighbors today, but, well, I don't know where he's gotten off to. You've lost him? You just moved into a brand new neighborhood and you've already lost him? He smiled when he said that, but the way his face looked, you thought he actually wanted to cry. If you see him, can you tell him to come on home? He's got a pink cast and glasses. You can't miss it. Can I keep this either way? This definitely wasn't the normal way kids made friends. You knew that, but you were still gonna help. The man smiled and reached out to pat you on the head, paused before doing so, then pulled his hand away instead. Your mom's already checking around for me. Such a thoughtful group you are. Now I better go look too. I can't put everyone else to work while I keep sitting here. I thought he might come back and, well, that's not what's important. I have to go. Thanks again, Devin, so much. He jogged off down the street without another word. You decided to check the hills behind your house. The chirping of crickets in the tall grass greeted you, quiet and familiar. From the top of the hill, you could see the ocean. As you walked, you listened to the crash of the waves on the shore and the seagulls squawking as they settled down for the night. You've always loved the ocean. It was so much fun. You loved to hear stories about the sea, about the merfolk and the sea serpents you imagined living far beneath the waves. You didn't enjoy the beach all that much, especially the sand, which got absolutely everywhere. You've always loved the ocean. It's so much fun. Sometimes Lizzie would join you, the two of you splashing each other in the waves. Those were the best days. You took in a deep breath. You wanted to try to relax and couldn't. You weren't sure what, but something told you you weren't alone, so you glanced around. There was a boy sitting at the top of one hill, almost completely hidden within the long grass and white flowers surrounding him. His head was buried in his knees, staring ahead by himself. For whatever reason, you probably just that he wasn't paying attention. He hadn't noticed you yet. You watched him a minute longer, feeling a little bit like you'd found a deer in the wild. Though deer didn't have green hair, wavy eyebrows, huge glasses, pink cast, sad frowns. Yeah, he definitely stands out. What is with the fucking eyebrows? But this new boy did. You weren't sure what else in the world had eyebrows like that, if there was anything. After a few more seconds, you took a step forward, then another. Then he glanced your way. His aquamarine eyes reflected the light of the moon. You stopped, raising a hand to acknowledge him and show that you weren't scary. Are you lost? With a start, he jumped to his feet, his hands balling into fists at his sides. He didn't say anything, just stared at you in a strange way. He'd been crying. There were traces of tears on his cheeks and his knees, soaking the hem of his shorts, and his eyes were still shining with a few more. You'd obviously caught him off guard. His pink cast seemed to glow in the twilight, though when he caught you staring at it, he had his arm behind his back. Something the man earlier had said stuck out to you. Cove? Ah. His eyes wide, he studied you. How'd you know? You touched the money in your pocket, feeling crinkled beneath your fingertips. I met your dad. Oh. So, is this your hill? He gestured his uninjured arm to the patch of grass surrounding you, his face falling at the prospect. I can leave if it is. Yep, you can't own a hill. Why not? How could you? You just do. I had a hill back home. Well, this still isn't mine. Oh. He sat back down with a thumb resting his chin on his knees again. Why are you here? A quiet hiccup escaped Cove as soon as you asked the question. Almost like they'd never stopped, the tears started up again with vengeance. My parents, they don't want to live together with me anymore. Tears fell fast and heavy over his flushed cheeks, sticking in his dark lashes. My mom made my dad leave and he took me with him, and now we have a house here and I want to go home. The outburst took you off guard. By the time he was done wailing, Cove's chest was heaved with exhaustion. He sniffled and removed his glasses, wiping at his eyes with the back of his hand before he put them back on again. I hate this place. I want my real life back. I want my mom. I'm sorry. Your dad seems kind of nice. You'll like it here. You just have to get used to it. Stop crying. He slipped his hands underneath his glasses and pressed his fingers under his eyelids. Against his eyelids. God, I was like under his eyelids. Wow. Cove wound himself up again for another long crying fit. Sunset Bird was a nice place to live. It had a beach, playgrounds, a good school, at least you thought so. But from way off in the distance, you heard your parents. Devin! Cove. Kids, where'd you go? Cove looked back at you, tears still clinging to his cheeks. Don't tell them we're here. I don't want to go back to that house. I want to go home. It'll be okay. You were struck by a sudden need to reassure Cove. It's not gonna all be fun, but isn't he your family too? Yeah, I guess. Then you can count on him when you really, really need him. You shot him a grin, pushed yourself to your feet. Slowly, Cove stood up with you, still looking a little reluctant. His dad's voice rang out again. Cove, can you hear me? He looked toward the sound of his dad's voice, silent, then turned away while rubbing his not bandaged arm. Sorry, I still don't want to go. Yeah, I get it. You do? Before you could answer, you heard Cove's dad even closer than before. There you are, bud. The trio of parents appeared over the curve of the hill. Instantly, all their eyes landed on you, and they rushed over. Both your moms were at your side in a second, faces filled with worry. Devin, you're here after all. We had been at the park to check for Cove, and then heard what happened earlier when you met the new neighbor. I thought you might have gone off further away. No, we were just sitting in the grass. Why is everybody acting like it's such a big thing? We're okay, don't worry. Cove didn't want to go home just yet. Mommy gave Cove a small smile, and then she turned back to you. Thank God you're both fine. Were you two having fun out here? You pushed over at Cove, who was wiggling against his dad's tight hug and pushing against his arms. He's good. I think I'm gonna marry him. He's new here. It was okay. Finally letting go of his squirming, scowling son, Cove's dad turned to the three of you. Thanks very much for finding him. I really don't know this neighborhood. Good thing Devin knows this whole area so well. Absolutely. We should get getting home now. It's been a long day for us all. Say goodbye, Cove.
Bye.
Poor kid. The two of them walked off into the darkness, heading toward the neighborhood. You watched Cove's bright pink cast until it disappeared. Tell you what, we'll have a proper playdate tomorrow, okay? Your new friend's dad wanted to bring him to see you and Lizzie. How does that sound? Sure, can I show him my stuff? Sounds like words. You nodded, ducking your head down. Both your moms laughed, the sounds overlapping into a warm, familiar chorus. Mommy put her arm around your shoulder and led you towards the path. Satisfied, then more than a little bit ready to go to bed after your long, exciting day, you followed them home. Choose your feelings for Cove. This is how you feel towards Cove for this step. It can change in later steps. I don't know. I feel indifferent. Relaxed and indifferent. You can step 1 and relaxed indifference. I won't be able to change again until step 2. You know what? That's fine. Early the next morning, you were poking at your food, eating it slowly. Your sister Lizzie had run out earlier to go play, but she stayed put. Today, just like your moms had promised, Cove was coming over to hang out. Excited to see your new friend again, Devin? Maybe we can become friends.
Okay.
With that said, are you done with your breakfast? Yeah, I don't know. Am I? Your bowl was entirely empty, so you nodded. Good job. He should be here soon. Cleanup began, and then on cue there was a knock. It was hesitant, like the person wasn't sure they were in the right place. Still loud, though. We need to get a more obvious doorbell. I know. Devin, could you get it? Because Mom said so, you wandered over to the door. Hey, Works family, thanks for having us. Mr. Holden, as your moms have called him, and his son were here. Cove looked different in the bright lighting of your living room, and when he wasn't crying, with his dad standing in front of him and Mom and Mommy behind you, you and Cove looked at each other. You studied Cove apathetically. This was the parents' plan, not yours. Not seeming any more excited than you were, he just stared back. Do you want to go play in your room, Devin? Sure. Come on, it's upstairs. Okay.
Take care. Okay.
Okay.
Take care.
Let us know if you need anything, you two. Have fun, kids.
See you.
See you later, son. Play nice. You led him to your room, puffing out your chest a little bit at the sight of your treasures. There were a lot of stuffed animals, a cool bed, a window to look out. It was a great room. You hadn't had anyone to show it to in a while, but you were really proud of it. He leaned in a little closer to one of your drawings on the wall. I like this. Me too. I drew that. Thank you. You're welcome. You smiled at him. You were proud of that particular piece of art, and you were glad he noticed it. He turned to look at the room for a little more, studying the books on your desk and the picture on the walls. Started to feel a bit nervous. You felt the atmosphere was kind of awkward. You were glad for the company. It was nice to have someone new to play with. Then his eyes landed on the tiny box of beach things you collected tucked away by your door. He took a step towards it before hesitating, pointing at it instead. What's that? A hoard of stuff I found on the beach.
Oh.
Do you have any driftwood in there? Dragging the box in the middle of the room, you and Cove flopped down next to it. I think so, yeah. See? You just a piece at the bottom, still covered in specks of sand. Neat. This is a good collection. You got the sense from the tone of voice he wasn't just saying it to be nice, or to be like Shiloh. He actually meant it. Oh, right. I almost forgot. Shiloh is going to be here today. Shiloh? Lizzie's friend. Or like her #1 fan, I guess. Do I have to see him? It should be okay. I mean, he's Lizzie's friend, not mine. But you know. Come on, check out my shells some more. I found this one under a big piece of seaweed that had washed ashore, and you pulled out seashell after seashell, explaining where you'd gotten each one and holding them up against the light. There were big ones, small ones, pink, purple, and orange. Most of them you washed off in the bathroom sink when you brought them home, cleaning off the sand. Over the past few years, you'd even learned some of their scientific names. Their collection was so huge and varied that you had a lot of funny stories to tell for all of them. Your voice faltered a little bit, but you kept going as best you could. You were really proud of your shell collection, and it made you happy that Cove was interested in it too. Apparently fascinated either by the stories or by the shells themselves, Cove listened to what looked like the full force of his attention. It was a new experience to be the center of such dedicated focus, even if it was only directed at the shells. Kids, come down to the living room. You could tell the idea was making him unhappy, but Mommy wasn't giving you much of a chance to hang around. Cove hadn't been like this meeting you. You guessed it was because he thinks you found each other by accident, not that a parent made it happen. Mr. Holden must be right by telling Cove his dad was part of what would be a bad idea. Before you knew it, you'd both been escorted downstairs and deposited in the living room ready for Shiloh's visit. The two of you sat side by side on the floor with your home's... The two of you sat side by side on the floor of your home's entryway. I brought the box of shelves. I want to keep looking at them. Bust it open. We can keep looking at while we wait for Shiloh. Cove reached in and pulled a big orange shell. Oh, like he hadn't spoken aloud yet, he turned to you and held it up, his eyes shining. I think this one's the best of them. It's my favorite too. I like a different one best. I can show it to you. You can have it. Cove looked surprised at you, his eyes going wide. Really? Sure, you like it a lot, right? Uh-huh, but I don't want to take it from you. It's okay. Got the impression he was hesitant to accept something because he didn't know you very well. Okay. You didn't want to pressure Cove too much. It was supposed to make him happy, not nervous. Plus, Cove was your neighbor now. Maybe you could give it to him another time. The two were still sitting on the floor looking through your collection of beach findings when the doorbell finally rang. Cove jumped, startled by the sound. So the person hadn't knocked figured it was probably Shiloh. He knew where to look for that. Lizzie's friend? You nodded, but it didn't seem to make Cove feel better. It was already obvious that Cove didn't hide his feelings well. You could tell what he was thinking right away. This isn't a good idea. You'll be alright. He's here. We can't tell him to leave. He's at our only door, and if you go upstairs, he'll find you. Cove glanced around the room, his eyes wide, and finally paused with his gaze locked onto the back of the house. I can go out the window. He was already walking towards it. Scrambling to think of something to say, he stepped forward, then paused. Do you want to break her other arm? I think she's meaning like falling out the window, but it seems like a threat. Shiloh, the least scary person alive. Joe, Shiloh's gonna like you. Please don't get hurt. I'll come with you. I'm worried. What if something happens? The distance from the first floor living room window wasn't far, but you could tell made Cove nervous anyway. He touched the gas on his arm. The one clearly released from his sails. I don't want to break any more bones. I don't think anyone wants to. Yeah, but I don't want to see him. I don't know him. It's okay if you're worried. Nobody warned you this was gonna happen. Thanks. Shiloh poked his head into the living room. It was impossible to know for sure if he'd heard what you've been saying or not, but you guess he had.
Hi.
Oh my god. I had forgotten. I'm so happy to see Shiloh here. My brain had just completely forgotten there were XOXO droplets. Oh my god, I can't even talk. I'm just so happy. I love Shiloh so much. This is a character from one of GB Patch's other games. I remember now, back when looking at like promotional stuff for this game, that there were gonna be some other character cameos. There were gonna be some other character cameos, and my brain had just not clicked with the name until I saw his little face. It's Shiloh from XOXO Droplets. I'm so happy. Hi, Devin. Oh, hi. Cove? Cove shot you an uneasy glance. Hi. I'm Shiloh. Nice to meet you. Yeah, you have a lot of freckles. Right, I do. What are you guys doing? We're looking at shells.
Can I do it too?
Awesome. Can I do it too? Cove shrugged, then looked back at your box of beach findings. What about that one? The plan for the afternoon, at least as far as you were concerned, was to sit and look at beach things some more. You weren't really in the mood to do much of anything else. Hey, check out this scallop shell I found. Cool, right? It's a pretty color, kind of like my cast. The beautiful glittering pink did look a little bit like the wrap around his arm. Pink is such a nice color. Okay.
Oh?
Is it your favorite? Not really. What is? Maybe green or blue. It might be yellow. Oh, those are all cool. I guess. I like those colors too. There are better colors. Not sure how to deal with a suddenly more awkward silence. You look back at your shells.
Awesome.
I know, and I don't know if Shiloh is kind of an asshole at this point, or if that was a thing that he developed later in life. But dear lord, he's seeming like such a sweetie right now. Awesome. Like usual, it didn't take long for Shiloh to get fidgety. Lizzie was his favorite. Without her around, Shiloh didn't seem to know what to do with himself. And Cove wasn't like your sister. He wasn't that much like you either. Is Lizzie coming back? I don't know. Where'd she go? I think she's at the beach. Probably. Is she playing at her park? Cove's eyes lit up at the mention of the park, and he looked towards you. There's a park? Yeah, but it's old. Can you show me? I want to go. He started getting up before you'd even answered, and Shiloh jumped up beside him in excitement. Really? You do too, right, Devin? The park is fun. Love it. The park is pretty great. Yeah, it's right at the beach. There's lots of fun stuff to do and lots of sand. It has a jungle gym and a bunch of swings. That sounds like it could be cool. So, are we gonna find Lizzie? I don't know. I never really wanted to see her. I just wanted to check the park out. Adrift without any direction, Shiloh finally turned to you. Okay. He perked up. Both boys wanted to go. It was only fair. After getting permission from your moms, the three of you were ready to head out. It was a short walk to the park. Lizzie had convinced your moms that it was so short she could always be allowed to walk there by herself. When you found her, she was hanging out on the jungle gym, swinging back and forth. Hey, Lizzie. Her face lit up when she saw you, her big brown eyes going wide. Devin, Shiloh! Hi! She dropped on the ground and landed with a soft thud in the sand. In a split second, Shiloh had abandoned you two and scrambled over the sand by her. You were used to being left out when it was just the three of you, but now Cove was there. You weren't sure if this was an improvement. Aw, she's adorable. Who's that? It's Cove. He's new.
Hi.
I remember. Hi, Cove. Welcome to my park. Nobody ever comes to play here, so this is where we get together. She gestured wildly with her arms as if to present the area to the newcomer. Without interrupting Lizzie's speech, Cove whispered in your ear, quiet enough that the others wouldn't overhear. I thought kids couldn't own places like parks or hills. You couldn't help but laugh a tiny bit. While Lizzie continued talking, you took the chance to kick off your shoes and wiggle your toes through the warm sand. Nice, huh? In this neighborhood, I'm the one who comes up with the ideas. You are? Yeah, I am. Who else could handle the job? Lizzie is the oldest. By a lot. My mom said you're Devin's age? Yeah. I thought so. I'm the only one in this group with double digits. So she's probably 10. What about the other kids? Other kids? There aren't any. We're the only kids here, and Shiloh is just visiting from another place. Not even tourists really bring their kids here. This is a land of ancients. Be careful the oldies don't try to steal your youth. Oh. For a second, it looked like you might cry again, but something in his eyes shifted and looked back at Lizzie. What kind of old people? Like moms and dads or grandparents? Grandparents who don't have kids. They hate kids. Why? We haven't done anything. Only some of them don't like kids. Stop saying stuff like that. You're gonna upset him. He interjected quickly, hoping Lizzie wouldn't take things too far. Cove sniffled, his forehead creased with worry. Lizzie was staring Cove down, but Cove wasn't even looking at her anymore. He didn't seem to care that she was there. He went into his own head. Shiloh was the next one to speak, completely unaware of the situation. I met Lizzie and Devin in school. You'll see tons of kids there once summer is over. I don't want to go to a new school. I don't want summer to end. Shiloh looked down at the dirt. He hadn't had much luck striking up conversations with Cove. I like summer vacation a lot too. All the building tension in the air suddenly vanished when Lizzie laughed. At Shiloh's discomfort at how weird she thought Cove was, at something else entirely you didn't really know, but she laughed, face scrunching up.
Okay.
Welcome to Sunset Bird Cove. Take a seat, pick up your feet, and get used to it. Ugh. That's right. For the rest of the summer, Cove was always there. You saw him more often than Shiloh, and on some days when she was in a bad mood or busy, you even saw him more than Lizzie. He became a staple of your everyday life, the way the sun and lunch and the beach were. The first summer, you hadn't really been interested in one way or another. He was just kind of a fact of life, someone you met because he was there. Of course, that was only the start of things. The night was incredibly still. You really couldn't ignore how silent it was. It was almost eerie. You could even hear Lizzie snoring in the next room over. It was hard to believe how much of a blur today was. Summer sure did slip right past you. You flicked through the moments like pages in a scrapbook as you laid in bed. You thought a lot about what adventures you could have tomorrow until sleep started to catch up to you. Then you heard something scrape against the window. It wasn't that uncommon for wind to push a tree branch against the glass. Summer breezes were the worst sometimes. The more you tried to ignore it, the louder it seemed to like it became. It was like something trying to get your attention. You lifted your head off the pillow to get a better look. Nothing was there, nothing you could see at least. You just went back to bed. It was only your imagination. You had to investigate the mysterious sound. It's too creepy to ignore. You practically jumped out of bed and crept down the stairs to go outside. Your moms were still awake. They stayed up late, it seemed. Luckily, they were watching TV and didn't hear the soft click from the front door opening as you slipped past. I didn't know that investigating meant going outside. Jesus, this 8-year-old is more brave than I would have ever been at that age. Well, actually, I was probably more brave at 8 than I am now, especially when it comes to going outside. You looked around the neighborhood for a few seconds, checking over each individual house. It looked normal, but didn't feel that way. You knew you weren't supposed to be out here right now. It was exhilarating. It made you regret your decision. It scared you. You didn't know what had come over you. Something bad happened. No one knew where you'd gone, and that thought made your stomach tighten in fear. The ease in which you had slipped out only served to make you feel worse. Your moms didn't need to be vigilant because they had trusted you not to do exactly what you were doing. You twitched at the sudden call, immediately calming down upon seeing Cove walking to you. It was strange, yet also completely normal to have him appear like this right now. What are you doing? I saw you standing around the middle of the street from my window. You weren't sleeping either? Why not? Cove turned his lips to smile, almost as if they were amused by the question. Because... Did you hear a weird noise? You should be in bed. Because what? Because I wasn't. His tone was irritated now. That wasn't really fair, since he hadn't given you a proper answer the first time, or the second for that matter. Why aren't you sleeping? You weren't even in your house. Tempting as it is to turn his technique back on him, you decided to lead by example and show him what the real answer looked like. There was a strange noise coming from outside. I came to check it out. You heard it too? Cove hesitated for a moment, looking down the street before his aquamarine eyes fell on you again. Did it scare you? A little. Me too. The two of you delicately smiled at that. Cove even chuckled a bit. It was nice that you both felt the same way about things. I was kind of wondering if it was the wind, but what if it's not? What if it's a person? What if it's something that's not a person? The unsettling noise suddenly rushed through the air. Cove and you flinched. It sounds even worse than before. You were about to agree with him when the noise came yet again, tearing through the still night. The two of you rapidly looked around, trying to figure out the source, but to no avail. There was no sign of an answer to this puzzle. You thought that it could be anything. It had to be a ghost. There's gotta be a regular reason for it. Invisible, creepy thing luring children to from their beds. It had to be a monster. You were torn between the curiosity of discovering what the noise really was and being scared enough to want to run straight home and hide under the bed covers. Hey, can you tell where it's coming from?
Not really.
Not really. Then we'll have to look more somewhere else. Maybe we'll see something. Okay, let's go. It's a little annoying trying to voice a partially voice acted game because I never know when it's coming, so I'll just talk over it, and it's just is a lot. The two of you walked along the familiar streets of your neighborhood, sharing the sidewalk and whatever amount of courage you had between each other. The shadows cut corners and angles where you didn't expect them, distorting the features you saw every day. The noise came again, shrill and hard. It set your teeth on edge the way it ground its way through you. Cove's throat bobbed. His eyes glistened in the dim light. You stayed frozen to the spot. You took a deep breath to calm yourself. You comforted him. You offered him your hand. You focused ahead. It's what your moms did when you or Lizzie were scared, and it always made you feel better. It just felt right to do it for him right now. Cove's mouth opened wordlessly. There was a pause, but ultimately he accepted the offer. Your hands were never as sweaty as Cove's was now. Cove shut his eyes and pressed his lips together. His fingers locked around each other even tighter.
So...
Where did you want to check? The park, the beach, the hills behind my house. The beach stretched out in front of you, nothing in sight along its sands no matter which way you turned. Part of you had imagined the noise of some creature in the deep, washed up on shore calling for aid. The theory had taken off the list for now. Still, you spent enough time on the shore to know the real finds often required a sharp eye and careful attention. Sounds screamed past your ear. You hunched up, shoulders high, as if ready to endure a blow, but the only damage was to your ears. There didn't appear to be any immediate danger, despite every bone in your body telling you something wasn't right. We could go forward. Doesn't seem like a very good idea. You couldn't stop what you'd already gone so far. You had to find out what was going on. Your nerves were rattled, but you had to keep going, despite the goosebumps creeping along your arms. He then whispered to you, "Let's see if there's anything here." Cove began to comb the beach for clues. You followed in suit. Angry winds sent grains of sand rolling across the beach like waves. You steered clear of the water, which was rough and choppy tonight, and scoured the area for hints as to what might be happening. You were too wrapped up in your own search, imagining the possibilities behind the noise to pay attention to what Cove was up to, though you occasionally glanced up to make sure he hadn't vanished. You saw a little white point jutting out amongst the sand. You bent down and brushed the grains away like the archaeologists on TV uncovering a conical shell. Ran your finger over its bumps and curves, admiring the shell. Holding up to your ear, you heard the usual waves that you find undoubtedly special. It was unconnected to the mysterious noise. That was okay. It meant you could take it home safely and add to your collection. Did no one tell this kid to be careful of, like, fucking cone shells? Did she, like, check if there was a living thing in there? Those fucking little snails can kill ya. Once you were satisfied nothing out of the ordinary was to be found on this beach, you had to consider your next step. Though the noise wasn't as clear as when you first stepped outside, you could still hear shrieks rending through the peaceful night. You decided to check the park now, decided to check the hills behind your house now, decided to go back home now. You and Cove ascended the hill, lit only by the stars in the night sky. The wind rippled through the grass and ruffled your hair. Without the sun's light to translate that you were seeing, every brush in the distance looked like a creepy figure or towering monster. The noise was quieter here. Whether that was because you were causing the noise was coming to an end, or because you were further from the source, you couldn't be sure. Top of the hill was an excellent vantage point to survey the town from. Everything appeared normal. There was no out-of-place pinpointing answer to this mystery. Without visible markers to guide your way, you supposed it was up to you and Cove to deduce the source of the sound. The hill had many great hiding places, and you intended to check them all. The upturned rocks, peered up trees, rummaged into thick grass for anything that might bring some closure on all this. Despite your thorough searching, you turned up nothing amiss. You, still glad you'd come, frustrated by the lack of progress, wish you'd stayed in bed. The noise had raised many questions. You were unable to get any answers. Being bested like this was infuriating. Well, whatever the noise was, you were confident that you had established it was not coming from the hill. You stretched out, arms reaching toward the sky like you were about to grab one of the twinkling stars. Your body was feeling heavy now, no longer spurred by fear and adrenaline. However, the noise had not been located. You listened for it, hoping that something about its call would finally click for you. It didn't come. What? It's gone. Cove had been admiring one of the poppies, perked up at that. You put your finger to your lips and watched as you went through the same verification process as you. Stopped, but what was it in the first place? I wish I knew. That was it then. There was no need to stay out here any longer. Without a single clue or even the noise itself to lead you, you felt your bed calling you. It was a much sweeter, friendlier call than the one that had lured you out of bed in the first place. The night was still as you walked home. With none of the usual background noise or eerie whistle from before, you could hear every step you and Cove made like a cough in a movie theater. The two of you came to a halt outside your front door. Never before had it looked so ominous. Now to sneak back inside. Do you sneak out a lot? This is my first time. Not really. Lots you were lying. Lots you were telling the truth. Yeah, I've never tried to do it till now. Thought so. How'd you know? I hadn't seen you out of my window this late before. That was fair, though it could be possible you were just so good at sneaking this first time he caught you. Are you worried about getting caught? No. He was so forthright that you believed him completely. But your dad, want to get mad or sad if he catches you? He'd never happy with what I do. Oh. You sympathized. You encouraged Cove to see it more positively. You stayed out of it. You didn't know how to react to that. Not knowing how to respond, you went back to staring at your front door. Alright, I'm going in. Okay, good night. Good night. You turn the doorknob as slowly as a clocksmith at hand, holding your breath for the telltale click of the lock, then nudged it open. When all that happened was the door opening rather than the blaring alarms that you'd feared, you melted with relief. Back inside your house, you were surprised to find your mom still watching TV. Weirder still, it looked like they were on the same show as they were watching before you left, yet you're positive you've been out investigating for hours. Perhaps you could use their distraction to your advantage. If you could just get up the stairs, you'd be safe from suspicion. But how could you get there? Tried to sneak past, tried to walk in your own house nonchalantly. You couldn't. You had to give up and come clean. You hugged the wall as you creeped delicately on the perimeter of the room. It was a valiant effort that any spy would have been proud of, right up until the moment when you tripped over a power cord and nearly fell over. Devin, you might not have fallen, but your accident ruined your cover. You had been spotted. They abandoned the couch on the show to hurry over. They were still in a state of surprise. You weren't in trouble yet.
Are you okay?
What are you doing down here, sweetie? Did you have a bad dream? You couldn't bring yourself to own up to what you had done. I heard scary noises, so I came down here. Their surprise gave away to concern. Honey, Mom took you by the hand and led you up the stairs. Ooh, your hand's cold. Why didn't you come over to us? I was supposed to be in bed. Devin, you won't ever be in trouble coming to us when you're frightened. We'd much rather you came to us and tried to solve things all by yourself. Her phrasing made you feel bad. Nervousness ate at you until you tucked into bed. Your mom's assumed that your flushing and insistence on delving under the covers, part of your fear, spoke to you softly until you calmed down enough to peep out from underneath your sheets. Once your moms had left, you turned over the night's adventure in your mind. It was still hard to believe you'd really done it. It was harder still to believe that you'd gotten away with it. Even now, you always expected to be caught somehow. Perhaps you left the door ajar, or trailed sand where they'd already swept up. You wondered how Cove's dad had handled his return. Cove hadn't been all scared about his dad's reaction. Wriggling down deeper underneath the sheets, your thoughts turned to the noise and what they could have been. Nothing about it had been solved tonight, but that wasn't so bad. There were a lot of mysteries in this world. Your thoughts morphed into dreams, carrying you more and more outlandish visions of what might lay behind the strange sounds. The next morning proceeded mostly like usual, though your mom seemed to be giving extra consideration since finding you last night. You later learned Cove didn't end up in trouble for the nightly escapade either. It was unclear whether that was because his dad chose not to punish him or if Cove got away with it. It was amazing to you that it all worked out for both of you. As the sounds that started this all, the adults around were convinced it was nothing more than the wind. For your imaginative mind, that wasn't nearly enough. How could they accept something so simple so easily? Maybe it'd make more sense when you were grown up too. I like that. That was cute. Okay, I'm gonna end this first episode here. I will probably do more of this game. I probably will try to not, do, a ton of each step. I could, you can just skip to the next step whenever you want. I will probably do at least a few of the scenarios. But yeah, thanks so much for hanging out with me. If you enjoyed, subscribe. There will be more coming soon. I also have a TikTok and a Twitch and a Twitter. You can follow me on all of those. I upload to TikTok basically every day. Twitch, I stream a couple times a week, and I don't use Twitter ever, but you can still catch me on there. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.